Hey guys, this is just one guy, and this is my tutorial series, Unity for Noobs. Now in this episode, we're going to learn how to use Unity's new online system. I believe they put it on in 5.1.2 or something like that, but if you download the newest update, you'll have the new update system. Now in this episode, we're just going to put our character online, and episode after that, we're going to separate out the variables so we can only control our own character. And finally, in the third part, we're going to add the network animator. Now setting up the network is pretty easy in this one. No, it's not like before where you had to do a bunch of coding, anything. In fact, I don't believe you have to do any coding at all. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is create an empty game object. Now we're going to rename it. Well, first we're going to put this game object at 000 position, just so we don't lose track of it. Take the 2D off. Now the reason we're setting it up like this is because this is going to be our spawn point. It's going to be our network manager and our spawn point, just to make things simpler. So we want to put it in a place where the player can actually spawn. Okay. Now we're gonna rename this network manager just to keep it organized. Okay, now we're gonna add some of the new networking components. We're gonna go to Add Component, Network, which is new, and this has all the network components. Now what we're going to use is the Network Manager HUD. It's going to give us two components. Now this component is just the GUI, so you have it already set up so you can test. In a real game you want to change this and you wouldn't use this, but for now we're just going to use this just to get things going pretty quick. And this is the Network Manager component. This is going to be the thing controlling basically everything. So we have this first variable, don't destroy and load. We just click that, and if we switch the scenes, we don't want to destroy the network manager. I can't imagine a case in which you would destroy it, but there probably is one. But in most cases, we're just going to click that button so it doesn't destroy when it goes from scene to scene. Then you have running background. When you build this application out and you click off of it into another program or something like that, like say I clicked here, the game would stop running. This just makes sure that doesn't happen. And I haven't messed with the log level. Then we have the offline scene and the online scene. This is just the scene you want to start off from, like a menu scene, and then the scene you want to load into when it's an actual game. So if you had like a first-person shooter, you would have that little menu scene all the way right here going down, and the buttons you could click on. And then when the person clicked like start lobby or something like that, they would go into the online scene. And that's the difference between these two. Then the network info, I haven't really gotten into that yet. The spawn info, it just has the object you want to spawn online. Anything like a gun or a player you want to spawn, this is where you put it. And we're going to put our player prefab here later. And I haven't messed with these two yet, but that's basically all we need to know for right now. Then you have this network show GUI thing, and you have the button actual show the UI and the GUI. I'll just show you what that does right now. Taking a bit to start up because of the recording software, but it just shows this. And what's important right here is this button and this button. This is going to start the host and this is going to start the client, and that's all we need for right now. Now hold up, oh, forgot this because I recorded this a couple of times and messed up a lot. I left this component out last time before too. The network start position. We put this on any object where we want the player to spawn in the beginning. And so since we're going to use our network manager, which is the empty game object, as the spawn point for when we instantiate the player onto the level, that's what we need right now. Then I've created this little folder called prefabs, which you should do just for organizational purposes. And well, I created I needed a prefab of the offline player, and our player we created before, we're just going to make that the offline player. And then we're going to drag this little network manager right here, because we need a prefab, because we don't want to build it in this layer. Well, we need a prefab. I'll explain it in a minute. Next, we're going to go to our player, and what we need on our player is networking, network identity, and we're going to click here. It's local player authority. This lets us control the player. If you click this, only the server would have control of it. This lets clients control the player that they instantiate. Now we're gonna drag our player over here. I'm gonna mark it as online player. Now I've already created these scripts that were necessary to do all this. First we have the manager class. So that's the scene I want to be opening. And we have a script called game manager. This is going to take forever. Which I don't know why Mono development is already open. Let's just open this one and see if it comes up. Of course, it's opening a new Mono development. I hate Mono develop. It's already opened. Let's just go over the manager class. I've created this manager class as a public static class, and the main purpose of this is just so from anywhere, any script in the game will be able to access the game manager transform. That way we don't waste time writing it out and finding like get component find manager or whatever. We don't have to do that. So we just have this public static class called manager, and we have this transform game manager. So we just set it once in the game, and then anybody can access it by just saying manager dot game manager, and that's just what I set up as a public class to make things a lot easier. That script doesn't go in anything; it's just inside the game. Then we have the second script called game manager. Now this will become important later, but for right now we just wanted to hold our prototype player. We got the online variable and offline variable. We're not using that in this tutorial, but we're going to use it in the next tutorials, so I already wrote it up. The prototype player, which I should change, is just going to be the offline player, because I've created it so you can play the game offline and online, and I'll get into that in a minute, but that holds the offline player. Don't destroy and load. That's just in case we forget to press the button. I'll just put it up there just in case of backup. And we have the application.target frame rate is 60. Now you should get in the habit of setting your frame rate at the beginning of the game, and I've just set it in the game manager script. The reason we set it like that at 60 because we don't need the game to waste extra computing power trying to render 100 frames when you don't really want that. It serves no purpose to render the game at 100 frames, so we just limited it at 60. Then we have the manager class that we created over here, and the transform game object to be the transform, which will be, this goes on the game manager, a network manager. So this will end up being a network manager that we can access from any script. Then we have this right here, this function start online game, and all that does is it gets that manager, the game manager, and it gets that network component, network manager HUD, and it just tells it to show that GUI that I was just saying. Basically what it does is it accesses this and it clicks that button right there. We'll have it off at the beginning of the game and it'll click it on. That's all it does. And it tells us that we're online. Then we have to start offline game. If we want to start an offline game, we just want to load the first level. So it loads up the first level using application.load, and then it tells us that we're offline. And if we load offline, as soon as we hit if we hit level 1 and we have a prototype player and we're offline, we're just going to create a player and instantiate. And that's all this does, is allow you to play an offline and an online game. So let's go back to the game now that explained. I think we got everything here for this level. Yeah. Now we have to delete the offline player because we don't want two players. We enter the level, save it. Now since I've done this tutorial a couple of times and messed up on recording it, I've already created the second scene, which we're going to name opening level. Now you need two scenes. This is going to be the menu scene, and this is going to be the online level scene. You should create this scene right now and name it opening scene. We're just going to click into it. Destroy this and destroy this. Ooh, I think I might have. Oh, okay. Now what I've done here is just created these two buttons, and by now you should know how to work Unity's new UI for Unity 5. Basically, you just create two buttons. Go down here, go to UI, and create a button, and then create a second button, and then space them out. The only thing I really have to say about this is it's good practice. If you ever want to know where their buttons exactly were and you didn't want them changing on screen, you just put these little what do they call it, anchors around the button, all four of them like that, and it'll always be exactly centered the way you want it. Now what we're going to do is grab our network prefab, our network manager prefab. We're just going to drag it into the scene. And now the first part. Unity really didn't have any documentation on this, and so it took me a while to figure it out. But let me just show you something. Before you put these scenes in here, because hold on. Let's just find the scenes. Go to the network manager. We're gonna put our opening scene right here, and as the offline scene, because that's the first one we want to see. And then we're gonna put the third person scene, the other scene that we want to load into, over here. But first, let me give you a little explanation. If you just tried to do that regular, it wouldn't go inside there. What you need to do is put both of these scenes inside the build settings. Now I've already done that because I did this a couple of times, but make sure they're in there. Otherwise, the scene won't go in and you'll have trouble. And Unity didn't really document that, which they really should. So I was stuck for like a half an hour trying to figure that out. But in our offline scene, just put the opening scene. The next one, the third person scene, and finally over in here and spawn info. What we want to do is spawn our player, so we'll go back to prefabs. We'll just get our online player, and then we'll put it in the prefabs. Now it's important to note that this online player, in order for it to go in there, it must have that network identity. If it didn't have that, hold on, I'll show you now. Move that component. Go to the spawn info, blank this. If it didn't have that, you can see it wouldn't go in there, and it even tells you down here it needs the network identity script on it. So let's just go down here, put it back on, and put it in. Come on, open up. There we go, and we have it. And I believe that is all the setup we need. Oh no, almost forgot to set up the button, sorry. Ah, yeah. And we're gonna go down to our scripts. We're gonna get that game manager script that we just created, put it on the network manager, and we're gonna go back to prefabs, put our offline player inside the player prototype. And I may have created the offline player before, forgot to mention it, but that's just the player without the network identity and all the networking components. Because if you tried to create a player that wasn't online with the network identity, it would turn off the game object, and that's important to note. So if you tried to load the online player in an offline game, what would happen is it would just go blank and give you a bunch of errors, because it would essentially click that and turn it off, and that's not what we want. That's why we have one online player and one offline player. If you haven't created the offline player already, you should just create the regular, just use the regular player, online player, and just turn off that network identity. Well, remove it. Okay, let's go back to it. We've got our player prototype as the offline player. Now we're going to go into these buttons that we created. First, to play offline, just going to go into the button script. Yeah, I got to set this up again. We're going to drag the network manager in here. Hit the plus button. Oh, sorry. I already got one function. Go to the game manager script and go to the start offline game. Yeah. Then we're going to go to the second button. Drag the network manager in. And go to the game manager. Where is it? Start online game. Clear the errors. I think that's it. Let's build the game and see. Save the scene. And we're going to go to build and run. I can already tell this is going to take a while with the recording software, even though it's a pretty simple scene. Plus, this laptop is pretty slow. I usually record on my other one, which is a little bit faster, but it broke. It's actually doing pretty good. I thought it would be a lot slower. Well, if it's taking too long in the video, I'll just fast forward it anyway. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna fast forward that. And we seem to be done. Let's just lower all that. Nice, the recording software. Now, when you first build the game, it's not going to come like this. Just set it to the lowest settings and hit window. That's just to make it run a little bit faster, and put windows so you could open up two menus and test it. Otherwise, it'll just open it up full screen. I hate that. And we're going to lower these graphics to lowest just so it runs fastest. Because all we're doing is testing the network. We don't want to slow down the computer. Let's go into, I believe it's Dragon Forge data. Come on, computer, don't slow down now. Okay. Oh, wrong file. And we're just gonna open up a second game. I always name my games test, just so I know it. First, we're gonna start the and we ran into our first problem. Well, let's test the network anyway. What was supposed to happen was this button was when we hit this button, it was supposed to show that, but I left it on by accident. So let's just test the network and see how it works. And we loaded up the first player, okay. Loaded up the second player. And yes, we set up the network with virtually no coding. I suppose if you just set up an online game, it wouldn't be any coding involved. But in our next episode, I'm going to show you how to separate it out. So the players right here, you only control one, and the camera only follows one player. Now, just to show you how it's supposed to work, hold on. We're going to go in here, click the network manager, and what we wanted was to cut that off, and we're going to rebuild the game, which I hate doing. I'm going to close this to see if it runs a bit faster. And of course my computer wants to freeze. You son of a bitch. And of course it's taking forever to build. And there we go. Let's just minus this. Lower this. Play. What are you doing to me? Come on. Come on. Okay, now you can see we don't have that little GUI function, because what we wanted was if we hit play online, that comes up. And then we just say we want to be the host of the client. And for some reason we haven't loaded the player in. Ah, he's loaded. He loaded it over here, and the camera's not following him right now. Okay, I see where I went wrong. I haven't done this yet, and I'll probably go over it in the next tutorial, since I just had to in the last tutorial I went over putting the smooth follow on. Smooth follow, and I forgot to put it on this player. And you'll probably have that trouble too. In the next tutorial, we're going to create the prefab with the camera already inside it. But that's it for this tutorial. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. And if you want to suggest a tutorial, please suggest a tutorial in the comments down below. Thank you for watching.